Sometimes a home finds its perfect match. This classic mid-19th century Greek Revival farmhouse, with its frieze-bound windows, columned porch, and dentil molding, sits nestled in the hills of Copake, New York. It once belonged to the Sweet family, wealthy British agrarians whose legacy is woven into this region's history. Now Frances Grace, a longtime floral designer and avid gardener, is bringing new energy into this home and to its land. Let's take a look inside to see what Frances has been working on and hear what's next for Sweet Flower Farm.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Sweet Flower Farm.
Thank you so much for letting us get a view of your beautiful historic home. So when you've walked in, I always feel like there's such history in these homes. What did you feel, if anything, when you walked in the door?
Yeah, I love historic homes as well, and was always raised in older homes. This is the oldest though. This is from the 1830s or 40s. And even though it's had many families live in it over the years, I walked in and the energy felt so clear and very bright, and it felt like a very happy home. I loved the simplicity of it and the feeling that I could really raise my son in this old home.
Yeah, and just the beautiful classic details of the, Greek Revival farmhouse is just amazing, right? And the history of the detail and balance, I think, is something that maybe makes you feel good when you come into these spaces.
Absolutely. And this house has stayed the same. Like, this is original dog-eared trim. I love some of the other molding in the house as well. And it feels so beautiful and livable, even though it's as old as it is. And I love that this house hadn't been stripped of a lot of the detail that some of the upstate farmhouses have been.
Right.
And I also wanted a house that was kind of not fully turnkey, but we could move in and we could get settled and make it our own without doing a lot of major renovation right away.
Which is too, it's nice to feel a space before you do that too, right? So
Exactly.
It's good. But the other thing I love are the pedimented architrave casements. To me, it's simple elegance scattered throughout the house, right?
Totally.
So what we're going to do now is ask her to give us a little tour, and then when we're done, we're going to sit down with Frances and see if she'll share some things that might be going on in the house going forward. Can you tell us a little bit about this particular space?
Yes, so this is the living room. I chose William Morris, really classic wallpaper. This is Strawberry Thief in the gold colorway. And I really wanted to feature the beautiful trim in here, as you spoke about earlier. And so we chose this very bold color. It's Inqua Blue by Farrow & Ball in high gloss. And I love how it picks up like the color in this wallpaper. And I wanted a room that felt really cozy and layered and maximalist. I love English style design and antiques. So this room has been a lot of fun. It's pieces I found upstate as well as family pieces and things I've bought over the years. And we really use this as our living room all the time and burn a fire in the fireplace all winter long. And yeah, you might even notice the room is slanting a little bit. That's one of the charming things about this house.
Roll a marble down it.
It's about a 6-inch difference from the left side to the right.
Good for your son to play with, right?
Yeah,
Bring a friend.
absolutely. Yeah, so one other thing I loved about this house right away is it has remarkably high ceilings for being a farmhouse from the era. And that's because the family who owned it, they were the Sweet family, were one of the wealthier landowners in Copake. They were English and quite tall, apparently. So they had specifically built these taller ceilings, even upstairs, compared to some of the colonial eyebrow homes of the same kind of era in the region.
Now, with that, I think your aesthetic is phenomenal. How you're tying different periods together, but still respecting the integrity of this home and making it your own. Can you point out some of your favorite pieces and why you picked them for this space?
Sure, absolutely. One of the things I love that I bought on Warren Street in Hudson from Cooper and Company when that was around are these lights. So this room has no overhead lighting. and no wired in lighting. So I used only floor lamps, and then I needed one more element. It was just a little too dark. So for the fireplace, this large mantle, I found these beautiful French lights that have these little like lilies and leaves. Obviously, I love flowers, and there are floral elements throughout the home, in the decor, in the wallpaper, pretty much in everything. And so I loved those in particular. Another piece that just spoke to me, and it took me about a year to actually pull the trigger on, is this grandfather clock, which I found at the Millerton Antique Center. It's from 1735, from London, and hand painted. I just love it. I don't actually have it working because I don't want the noise, but it felt so both over the top and absolutely appropriate for this room.
And you have a bit of a connection when it comes to flowers and the UK, and it kind of overlaps with the history of this house and its owners, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we came up with a name for the farm, I wanted to incorporate that because it felt like the energy of the place, also the name of the place, and I grow flowers. I was a floral designer for many years, and now I'm just an avid gardener and appreciator of flowers.
Perfection. So this room really ties together all your avocation and your love of history and flowers.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you'd like to show us in here?
So there are a lot of Chinese elements and chinoise elements in this room. They're pieces that I've collected, but also a lot of pieces that were my grandmother's and then were in my father's farm in Virginia. This is actually the first like grown-up piece of furniture I ever bought. I was like 23 and it was $1,000.
Oh my.
And I was like, really, I
Wow.
lived in a studio apartment with like an IKEA bed, but I bought this.
And that probably took up a lot of your apartment.
Yeah, and I really loved it. And I've like carried it through. And it's actually where I hide my television. So I've got like a little sliding drawer in there because I hate seeing a TV. Other pieces that are in that spirit, so there's this beautiful cabinet that was my grandmother's and then was in my dad's. It's all hand-carved Chinese. This fishbowl pot was at my dad's farm. My father passed away, and so I love having pieces that were in his home and pieces that I grew up with. This was in my notes in it when I was a kid. It has some sentimental value for sure.
So where are we headed to now, Frances?
So this vista carries us through our center hall into the dining room. I had a lot of fun because of that open walkway, kind of correlating the colors through and kind of tying it, the elements of the wallpaper with the trim. I wanted this home, as you'll see, there's really no white trim. Every room on the first level has a different color trim, upstairs as well. But because you can see through, it all needs to flow. So this room is our dining room. I added the wainscoting because I wanted to make sure that this room felt a little different from the living room in terms of how the wallpaper was viewed. And this simple like beadboard wainscoting felt historically appropriate.
Yes.
And broke up the very busy William Morris wallpaper. This is Golden Lily is the name of this pattern.
We love William Morris. It looks beautiful in this space too, especially juxtaposed to one of my favorite features, the beautiful hearth.
Me too. This color of this old brick I thought looked so beautiful with the flowers in this. I love the asymmetry of this hearth, this big stone. You can imagine this was probably used for cooking.
Absolutely.
And it really juts out far. It made the design of the like layout of the room kind of tricky because of how far it comes out and the asymmetry. But as I worked on the design of this house, I had to just kind of embrace that quirky asymmetry in a lot of spaces.
Is there any piece of artwork in this space or any part of your design that harkens back to your family again?
Couple pieces. These botanical prints were in the guest room of my childhood home. And even as like a 5-6-year-old, I remember loving these and thinking they were so elegant. So they've come with me along the way.
And they're perfect with that beautiful William Morris wallpaper.
Yeah, this rug actually is a very worn old family rug. My parents bought it in the 1970s when they were collecting a bunch of rugs and art, and it was in their bedroom when I was a little kid. And again, like I have childhood memories of like playing stepping stones on these little pieces.
Wow.
But a lot of the pieces in this room I actually purchased upstate. I had a lot of fun when we moved to this home trying to find things locally. This is a Dutch Hinderlopen table from Amsterdam that I found at a antique store in Millerton that I just was really charmed by the ornateness, but also it's quite worn. It's been around. It came on a boat from the Netherlands. It comes apart, and this is the very traditional Dutch Hinderlopen style that's all hand painted with flowers up and down the legs. And
it speaks to the hardiness and the craftsmanship of all of these beautiful antiques, right? And why they're still
Absolutely.
with us. So it makes, again, such a great feel in the overall scope of your house. So where to next?
Well, first I have to open up the door for my dog, who's been sunbathing.
Oh, we have to welcome in the baby.
Come on in, Rascal. I'll show you one or two things in this front hall because this was a fun room to design.
Thank you.
This was a fun room to design because it's small, but I love the elegance of this old of the old railing, and I wanted a space to feature some of my deity prints that I collected in India in my 20s. That was a different lifetime. In my 20s.
You never know.
And so I love, in India, there's a lot of pink. And so this room has these pink walls. This is setting plaster by Farrow and Ball, which, because it's a dark space, actually appears much brighter than you sometimes see it, which was a shock when I put it up on the walls, but now I just love it. This room also has a family piece, of which I've always loved since I was a little girl. It was in my grandmother's home and then in my dad's home, a painting from France from the early 1900s, and it just looks like this very peaceful, beautiful river that reminds me of a place we used to go in southern France called the Vaucluse River. And it was something I really wanted when my dad passed that I've like to see every day.
That brightens your day and reminds you of him.
So from the dining room, we have this little breakfast room here. This is borrowed light. This is the color, this really soft, pretty blue. I continued with this oval room blue trim. This space is just a nice little nook off the kitchen where we sit and work. It's also my son's arsenal, where we keep his many weapons. He's 5. This room, my favorite thing about this room is actually these Art Deco poppy lights that I found on Etsy. I'm about to plant a big poppy field, so I love having these little floral elements everywhere. And this is our little kitchen. I love the bright color. This home, when we bought it, was all white. White walls, white floor, white trim, white furniture. So I wanted every room, especially these smaller rooms, to have some real pizzazz and color. This is Babouche by Farrow and Ball, and we decided to kind of keep this kitchen as it was. Eventually we'll build off into a larger kitchen, and this will probably become a mudroom. But I wanted it still to be fun in the meantime. These are these cute little knobs I got in England, and then I love these are original early electric lights that I found in Hudson from an antique dealer there, and they also remind me of sweet little flowers.
Yes. I get a good shot of that. Beautiful. Anything you would like to point out in addition to those, or?
One of my favorite things I have in this room, and there's not a lot in this room, just given its scale, are these antique bird nest prints with little eggs that float above them. These are from an ornithology book. Ornithology?
Yes.
An ornithology book that I found in Hudson at the Antique Warehouse from the 1870s. That's English.
And they're perfectly placed there.
Thank you.
Frances, when you first moved in, your house was done to a point, but it was kind of a blank canvas so you could bring to it what you wanted. So based on who you are as a person and your sort of history, what did that open up for you? And how do we see it in the house and the way you live?
This house was definitely a blank canvas with some beautiful elements that we wanted to feature, such as the trim. I felt really lucky that a number of the big structural things had already been taken care of, but we did have a few things we needed to work on. Like, I really wanted to make sure everything was really safe. We did mold remediation, UV light filters, all those sort of tests on an old house to make sure that it felt safe and comfortable for me and for our 5-year-old son.
Right.
I had just come from living in England for 6 months in these really beautiful little cottages in the countryside in the Cotswolds and Devon and Yorkshire, and had been really inspired by the aesthetic and the feel of a lot of those homes in the country.
Yeah.
And I've always been an Anglophile. My mother's an Anglophile. I love English design and aesthetic movement pieces. And I wanted this house to have that layered, cozy, lived-in, comfortable feeling.
Right.
I love antiques, but I didn't want it to feel stuffy or pretentious, or that I had to be, stopping my child from playing on a piece of furniture.
Right.
So this home, I really kept that intention with the design of that warmth and comfort and coziness while still being pretty maximalist.
Because it's your home and you live in it. And I think, so much of what we see is perfection. And I don't know about, I know you don't, I don't. My house is a living, breathing thing, and stuff happens. And it's great to have, and I know you want to speak to this, things in your home that you are like, well, it's been around for a while. This rug has been here. If you drop something on it,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's an
Totally.
easier way to live. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my mother always said that about Oriental rugs, is they're the best rugs to have with children because you can never see the spills on them. You're just going to rub them right in. And same thing in this little breakfast room. I picked this performance fabric from Sister Parish in Connecticut, and old indigo fabric that had already some discolorations and was soft and was warm and cozy. And I think that makes you feel more comfortable, because you should feel comfortable. It's your home. It's not
Absolutely.
going to be perfect.
That's right. And especially when you have, animals and kids, they can be interchanged sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel like they can't touch things, right? It's meant to be lived in. So the next thing I'm thinking about when I think about how you've sort of built your life here over the last couple of years, I know you have a lot of plans for the future, and it is such a beautiful oasis.
Thank you.
Outside. And I know that it's going to grow even more given your background with flowers. And can you let us know a little bit about what you have planned and what your wishes are for the growth of this farm and this home and your family?
Yes, this home, well, the house is pretty much done. The land has a whole lot of work to be done on it, and we've been working pretty tirelessly for almost 2 years, both clearing the land and rewilding certain areas that had been cultivated for a long time in conventional manners. So this farm had a lot of mown grass, a lot of pasture that was doesn't have a lot of, it's all monoculture. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is taking these open spaces and turning them into meadows that are very biodiverse habitats for all the pollinators and the creatures that live on this land, as well as being stimulatingly beautiful for anyone who comes to the property. My orientation towards flowers is both as a gardener and as a designer with them. So I like to grow things that I sell to other floral designers as well as I use in my own work.
Right.
And I, from day one, knew that if I was going to buy a property with acreage, I wanted it to have this gathering space element, this community building experience on the land. It's not just for me. So I love to host, for sure, but I also am opening the farm this year, now that we've kind of been working on our branding and our website, to do a series of workshops and gatherings, farm dinners, and events here that are all about both creating beauty, celebrating the sort of natural beauty and the ecology of where we are,
Right.
as well as tying it in. We have some healing work, ancestral craft work, and just a celebration of this agricultural region.
And it feels like it's come full circle, right? So the Sweet family, although they were wealthy agrarians.
Definitely.
And it's come around, and you are now the stewards of this home. and I think that they would be smiling.
Thank you. I hope so.
Well, thanks to Frances. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful space. And maybe she'll invite us back to look at her gardens in full bloom at some point. And perhaps, because I'm going to have a link, you can attend some of her events that are coming up. I know that I will. Thanks.
I would love that. Thank you.
Take care. This is Historic Home Redux, because it's never too late to bring new life to a historic home. And there's so much more to come. Hope to see you soon.